What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Welcome into the Farzy Show here at the Steven Singer Studios. My name is Marc Farzetta. We got an Eagles game that we got to recap. We got an Eagles game that we got to react to. And I promise you this much. In our Morning Rush segment brought to you by Sky Motor Cars, we're going to have a smile. We're going to put a smile on your face. It's not going to cure everything. It's not going to be the greatest thing ever, but it will make you go, aw. And then smile. That's how it'll make you feel. It'll be nice. I was having a really nice weekend. I went down to a family reunion in Maryland. It was beautiful. It was all my cousins there. It was most of my cousins. Great time. Aunts, uncles, the whole thing. My mom's one of 12, and in case you didn't know that. And it was a big family thing. I was having a great weekend. I had a great dinner, or a late lunch, early dinner at Steak and Maine Friday night. It was fantastic. All was right with the world. It was beautiful. I finished that the outdoor tool rack that I had the hammer. I put the hammer away. That I had the hammer out here for on Friday's show. It was a wonderful weekend. And how about this? It was a wonderful weekend when I found the Eagles in the red zone on the opening drive of their game against the Kansas City Chiefs, only to stall and settle for 3. But not only did they just settle for 3, they burned a timeout in that opening drive and then further wasted the timeout by kicking a field goal instead of going for it on 4th down against a team like the Kansas City Chiefs that just coughs and 30 points happen for their offense. You had to make sure that you capitalized on every opportunity you had in the red zone, and the Eagles did not do that. We knew going into this game that their offense was going to score a lot of points. If you were able to keep them under 30, it would have been some act of God. It would have been a miracle if they were able to do that. Unfortunately, they weren't. I will say this before I get into the Farzy 5 and the 5 things that I looked at in this game, and it'll be my major takeaways and major disappointments in this particular game against the Chiefs. Before I say that, I will say this. Here's something that's optimistic. And by the way, we're in week 4 going into week 5, and we have our first "there are no moral victories" in a post-game news conference. Thank you, Jalen Hurts, for that. Much appreciated. There are no moral victories. However, if you would have told me going into this football game that the Eagles are going to be down 5 points in the 4th quarter to the Kansas City Chiefs, and not only they'd be down 5 points in the 4th quarter to the Kansas City Chiefs, they'd be down 5 points in the 4th quarter to the Kansas City Chiefs in a game where you did not have 3 of your starting offensive linemen. If you would have told me going into this game, we knew we were going to be down 2. We knew the Eagles were going to be down 2 offensive linemen. But if you would have also told me that Lane Johnson wasn't going to play, personal reasons, no one knows yet. He wasn't on the post-game show with Derek Gunn and I on 6abc.com yesterday. And Devin Caney wasn't able to do the show yesterday. They didn't give any further information as to what that personal matter was. So personal matter. Hope all is well with Lane Johnson. And just from an Eagles perspective, a selfish Eagles perspective, hopefully this isn't something that is going to linger coming up against the Carolina Panthers. But mostly, as a human being, good luck to Lane Johnson. Hope everything's all right. So if you would have told me going into this team you were going to have him, that means you're going to be down 3, and Jack Driscoll was going to be your starting right tackle. I would have been flat out shocked that they were still in this game, late in this game, in the 4th quarter, down 5. Flat out shocked. If you would have told me 461 yards of total offense would be amassed by this Eagles offense, would have been flat out amazed. If you would have told me that Jalen Hurts was only going to get sacked twice, would have been flat out amazed at that. So there are no moral victories, but that's pretty impressive. Kudos to Jeff Stoutland for the job he's done with this offensive line. Now let's get into it. Again, you tell me everything like that before the game, and you go, oh, wow, good for them. But then you watch the game play out, and expectations change as the game goes on. Sure, those are some nice takeaways to look at and go, okay, well, that's a positive from this. Okay, fine. Not a moral victory, but certainly a positive. So when you're watching this game play out, it certainly changes expectations. And I just can't get over this. And here's the 5 things that I'm looking at from this game. Number 5, going from 5 to 1 is how we like to do it here with the Farzy 5. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Mark, what was that one play? Yes, you're damn right, that one play. Took a touchdown off the board in the 3rd quarter for the Eagles. Your tight ends are actually getting targeted. Your tight ends are actually getting used in this game. And you have J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Andre Dillard, and you wait on for him for a second, and they're pulling touchdowns off the board, these guys. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, you got one job. You're a 2nd-round pick that's not even being looked at anymore as a target. You literally have one job on offense, and that is block. That's it. Block. You're fine after that. Just block. That's it. On that little rub route, that little pick play, as the referees called it, you can't extend your arms. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's a terrible call. That was the call. There is literally no other call to make when you see an offensive player fully extend his arm to push away a defensive player. Like, there's no other call to make. You had to make that call if you're the official. You're standing right there. You see it happen, and they score a touchdown on it. If that happened against the Eagles, people are, the other way. Once they heard the explanation, and they go, oh, wait, yeah, you can't do that. But in this regard, because it's against the Eagles, people are flipping the hell out. And I understand why, because not everybody understands that rule. But it's the most basic rule you can have if your only job when you're in on offense is blocking. You're not getting targeted, so just block. That's it. Block. And he didn't even do that. He made a play on special teams, but whatever. All right. Number 4 on the Farzy 5 here. Andre Dillard. My man, pots and pans. I know that Nick Sirianni, after the game, said, no, it's a tough play because it's an RPO and he's not going to know. He's not a rookie anymore. Know where you are on the field. I went back and I watched that play. Dallas Goedert almost had his head ripped off his body to try to score that touchdown. And he's got to look over and see a flag is thrown because Andre Dillard didn't know where he was on the football field. I went back and I watched that play a couple of times. I was like, I could see how it'd get lost. But then again, I'm not a starting left tackle in the NFL, and neither is he, to his credit, right? Or his excuse, I guess, or explanation. Neither is he. But he's got to know where he is on the football field. That's not just an NFL play. That's a college play, too. You mean to tell me at Washington you didn't know where he was on the football field? Know where you are. You're not a rookie anymore. Know where you are on the football field. If you feel yourself starting to drift away a little bit, get back to the line of scrimmage and start making some more blocks. I know it was an RPO, but as far as I'm concerned, that's a play that Andre Dillard cannot afford to make. He cannot afford to make that mistake continuously. And look, I know a lot of people will be looking at this, and we'll recap in a second, but Dillard and the self-inflicted wounds, that's a lot of things that the Eagles talked about after the game. We'll let you hear in our Rothman Orthopaedics locker room report what Nick Sirianni had to say, what Jalen Hurts had to say about this game. A lot of them talked about self-inflicted wounds. Number 3 on this list. If you look at the game Tyreek Hill had, which was just unbelievable. I mean, the Eagles really didn't have much of an answer for that. For me, I would have put Darius Slay. I would have put Slay over Tyreek Hill a lot more than what you were going to do. But then again, the Eagles wanted to go zone in a lot of instances here, so they couldn't really do that. Now, I know you might call it a box and one in basketball. Just, hey, Slay, wherever, what is it, the old remember the Titans? Get Ryan Gosselin out of there. Put this guy in. Just go cover 43. That's all I want you to do. Just go cover 43. That's what I would have done with Darius Slay. Go cover 10. Don't look at anyone else on the field. Hang with 10. That's it. Steven Nelson in this game. Look, he is not a Pro Bowler. He's not an amazing player. He's not a shutdown corner. But it certainly seemed the vast majority of times that Tyreek Hill was having his way with his Eagles defense, Steven Nelson was supposed to be in there in coverage. Not so much. There was the one player, I believe it was Anthony Harris, was over Tyreek Hill at the goal line. You can't have a linebacker on him. And that brings me to actually, before I get to number 2. So Steven Nelson is who I look at. And Darius Slay just pissed me off after the game. If there is ever a day to just let people say whatever the hell they want on social media, regardless if it has any semblance of realness or accuracy, just let him go. Whatever people were saying about Darius Slay after the game, just let it go if you're Slay himself. Just let it go. I don't need to know about you only allowing 2 separate 100-yard games to 2 separate different wide receivers in your NFL career. Good for you. Hey, that's great. Good for you and your moral victory as far as that's concerned. But as far as this game goes, nobody wants to hear about how great you are after you saw a guy like Tyreek Hill just torch you. After you see Patrick Mahomes throw for 5 touchdowns against this defense. After the Kansas City Chiefs, did they punt? I don't think anybody punted in this game. Slay, I love you, but I don't need to hear that. Number 2, Jonathan Gannon. Well, there was a plan, right? Like there was a simple request going into this football game. Don't be the worst. Don't be the worst defense the Kansas City Chiefs had faced through 4 weeks. Don't be the worst of the 4 teams that they have played. Oh, and you were the worst. You can't be the defensive coordinator of the worst team they've seen. There was no scheme. There was no game plan. There was nothing that you could have drawn up or done to be better than the worst they have faced. 42 points. 42 points. And there wasn't a situation where your offense was giving them the football in bad field position, so you can't look to that excuse going, oh, of course they put up that many points. No, I understand what the Kansas City Chiefs are. I understand they got, let's see, you can talk about three of the best players in football on the offensive side of the ball. When you talk about Patrick Mahomes, talk about Travis Kelce as their tight end, and he wasn't even that big of a factor yesterday except for that damn shovel pass. And then you also look at Tyreek Hill. I understand you got some pretty potent offensive weapons that you're going up against. But to be the worst that they have seen so far this year, that's bad. That is really, really bad. And I made the comparison. When I saw Anthony Harris line up over Tyreek Hill at the goal line, that gave me flashbacks to last year when Nate Gary was lined up over Chase Claypool, who I believe already had 3 touchdowns on the day, 2 touchdowns on the day, whatever it was. Claypool, Tyreek Hill, both had giant red flags coming out of their head going, I don't know if you want to leave me on a linebacker here. You got to do something in that situation. You have to have somebody on the field, kill it, switch off with them, something, because that is just no excuse whatsoever to see what happened in this particular game and in that particular play that the Kansas City Chiefs were able to get another touchdown of Tyreek Hill on. Finally, rounding out the Farzy 5. I'm going to say this. This gentleman has come under criticism a lot. And I have mostly defended him because there's been a certain little thing there called double teams. In this particular game, I looked over on more than one occasion, more than a handful of occasions. Many times throughout the game, I looked over, and Fletcher Cox was not getting double teamed. Brandon Graham not being out there to set the edge. You need somebody else to come in here and step up and play high above what they have been playing at over the last couple of years even. And Fletcher Cox has not done that. When you're paid to be the man, you better be the man. And he has not been the man. And then after the game, I see a tweet come out from Jeff McClain of Inquirer.com. And Jeff puts out a tweet basically summing up Fletcher Cox's stats so far this season and where he ranks in there. Now, a lot of times you can look at those double teams and say, oh, he's not getting the sacks or he's not getting the tackles for loss because he's getting double teamed. This particular game, not the example. But here's what Jeff McClain put out there. Fletcher Cox stats through 4 games, 5 tackles, 0 of them for a loss, 0 sacks, 0 quarterback hits, and he's got a fumble recovery for a touchdown. The ball just fell right in his hands. I mean, good for him, right place, right time. He was actually in the backfield for that, so, I mean, we can also look at that. That's cool. But this is inexcusable for Fletcher Cox. And I am not someone that always bashes this guy. I think this guy is a great defensive tackle. This year, he has not been a great defensive tackle. Last year, because of the foot injury, as we found out when the year started, that was still really bothering him. After that went away, he started to play like a Pro Bowl type of player that we're used to seeing him play at that level. With Brandon Graham not being in there, and Javon Hargrave, by the way, having one hell of a start to the season, there is no excuse why Fletcher Cox has not elevated his game to what this team really needs. And when you see the Kansas City Chiefs go berserk in the fourth quarter with running the football right down the middle where Fletcher Cox is playing, how do you not get involved and make some stops? How do you not get in the backfield and wreak havoc? There was one particular play, I believe it was the 3rd and 8 play, second quarter, I want to say, where Fletcher Cox was lined up, ball snaps, Patrick Mahomes drops back, Fletcher Cox one-on-one, and he is getting owned by the Chiefs in this particular play. Patrick Mahomes starts to roll off to the left, ends up scrambling for the first down, got whatever 12, 13 yards on the scramble. And Fletcher Cox is still there, tangled one-on-one. And then you see him start to trot over to the right to try to follow Patrick Mahomes. And you see him look back at the offensive lineman he was squaring up against, and he either said, like, I'll get you next time, or, that one, good for you on that one, whatever. But it looked like there were some words exchanged there that weren't of the venomous nature. But Fletcher Cox ultimately has to be the guy to step up. I know sometimes you might say, oh, it's unfair just because he makes that much money. He makes that much money because he's supposed to be that good. And you need someone to elevate their play when you don't have Brandon Graham on that defensive line, especially if you're talking about a defensive tackle and they're running the ball down the middle of the field. And like you want to talk about when they had Malik Jackson for the 2 years injuries mixed in, when they had Javon Hargrave, Malik Jackson, and Fletcher Cox injuries mixed in, when they had Brandon Graham on the end there, you have help for Fletcher Cox, especially this year through the first 4 games of the season with Javon Hargrave having 5 sacks. There's no excuse. You got somebody next to you who's dominant, and you're not doing anything. I don't know where else you can look. Now, there's a couple of things that stuck with me here outside the Farzy 5 there, right? The 5 things I'm looking at from this game. Javon Hargrave, Andre Dillard, Steven Nelson, Darius Slade just pissed me off after the game more than anything. And then obviously Fletcher Cox. Couple of things that also stuck out to me. I mentioned the one, you can't have a drive, your opening drive of the game, stall in the red zone the way the Eagles did. You can't have Nick Sirianni claim that he got the play in late. Then you can't have Jalen Hurts claim, oh, well, I was the one that called timeout because we didn't get the playoff. Like, both are trying to take responsibility. How novel, good for them. But ultimately, if you're Jalen Hurts and you call that timeout, you gotta have a little conversation with your coach that the timeout's already been called. So you're only going to further burn it and make it look worse if you don't go for it after you call that timeout. Once the timeout is called, whoever called it, oh, guess what? There's no field goal after that. If you're trying to cut your losses, hey, this might not be the game to do that. This definitely is not the game to do that against the Chiefs because you need points in the red zone, totaling 6, not 3, totaling 7 with the extra point. That, to me, is just inexcusable. So that's definitely on the list there. Derek Barnett, these are honorable mentions. Derek Barnett, I know a lot of people looked at for his roughing the passer penalty. If he doesn't get called for that penalty, it's a 3rd and 1, still very deep in the red. I think it's a 3rd and 1 from the Eagles' 6-yard line. I still think the Chiefs are going to convert on a 3rd and 1. And even if they don't, they're going for it on 4th down in that situation. And they still score a touchdown on that drive anyway. So the Derek Barnett penalty, which, by the way, if you're being fair, and I know this, and somebody put it perfectly for me on Twitter, you don't get the benefit of the doubt in this situation because it's always him. And I went back and I watched that play because I thought they showed quickly, but nobody acknowledged it on the broadcast. Charles Davis didn't acknowledge it, that he was pushed into Patrick Mahomes. He lost his edge a little bit, lost his footing. The left tackle there for Kansas City pushed him down a little bit, and that, I thought, brought him down to the low hit on Patrick Mahomes. Still a bad play by him because he lost his footing. Bottom line is on that one, I can't kill Derek Barnett. All the other penalties, very much so, absolutely. This particular one, if I'm grading it as an isolated incident, not that big a deal. The fact that it's not isolated, that it is always him, yeah, definitely worth acknowledging here. Now, this is where I started some problems on the old comment section. Not my comment section. You guys are great. You know what's what. Well, until I say this, and then you guys start ripping me as well. But when, if you're Jalen Hurts, I think a lot of people need to understand this. Now, keep in mind, now here's what I'm saying. I just listed 5 reasons I believe the Eagles lost this football game. 5 reasons they lost this football game. Jalen Hurts is not one of them. I just named 2 other honorable mentions. Jalen Hurts is not one of them. So this is like number 8, number 9, I guess, of things that just bothered me. And you have to think of it like this. Jalen Hurts is on a very, very short leash. And I'm not talking about, oh, Joe Flacco is going to start next week. I'm not talking about, oh, Gardner Minshew's learning the playbook. He's going to start next week. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about for the year. Jalen Hurts isn't playing this, just to be benched at some point this season. Jalen Hurts is playing this to be the Eagles franchise quarterback for the foreseeable future. Think about that. Carson Wentz played one hell of a game, played all the snaps for the Indianapolis Colts yesterday. The Eagles are most likely, cross your fingers, going to have 3 first-round picks. That's the only reason I bring up Carson Wentz. If they have 3 first-round picks and possibly Aaron Rodgers available, there's a couple of things. Free agency, trades, 3 first-round picks to possibly move up in the draft, take whoever you want as a quarterback coming out of the draft. That's what Jalen Hurts is competing against. So I say that only to highlight that that's what he's up against. going into next year, being the franchise quarterback. So when he's looking, and don't get me, he knows that. And as much as he wants to put it on the back burner, you can't help but let it pass through your mind every once in a while. So that's why on that opening drive, when you see him overthrow Zach Ertz in the end zone where he could have had 7, and it wasn't just like a slight overthrow. I mean, he skied it, man. He had a little bit of pressure in his face, but still had time to deliver a much better ball to Zach Ertz. Now, Zach Ertz ended up dropping a ball in the end zone later in the game. I believe it was the fourth quarter, third quarter, second half. I know that. So, I mean, it's all a balancing act. The other one was the throw to Greg Ward that was thrown way outside of Greg Ward. Greg Ward threw his hands up, touched the ball. I know you say, oh, if he gets his hands on it, he can catch it. That would have been one spectacular catch. I would have said that from Greg Ward. Those are only 2 things that I look at with Jalen Hurts where I say, those are the mistakes you can't make. Red zone mistakes cannot happen if you're on as short a leash as Jalen Hurts is. Not for this year, but for next year and your future with the Philadelphia Eagles. If you ask Jalen Hurts after the game, those are throws that he would definitely want to have back. That's not why they lost. It's not a top 5 reason why they lost. But it's certainly something I look back on. Red zone efficiency, Nick Sirianni, if you're saying you got that play in late, all right, I don't believe you. I think the offense was just late setting up, and I don't think they got the playoff. If you're talking about how this offense really executed throughout this game, yeah, sure, you can look at more runs and see, hey, I like to see a more run-to-pass ratio balanced than we always do. To me, that this game wasn't exactly an example of that. Run-to-pass ratio needs to be more balanced. I did not have an issue with that, mainly because if you look at that second drive where they did score a touchdown, it was a perfect drive. They barely ran the ball on that drive, but everything with 3 backup offensive linemen was crisp. It was clean. You were throwing the ball out of the backfield well. You were hitting guys like Miles Sanders, Quez Watkins. I think Jalen Reagor had a reception. You were getting your tight ends involved. It was a perfectly executed offensive drive, and you barely ran the ball. I don't like saying, oh, a screen is like running the ball, because it's not. You're still letting your quarterback make the decision, and you're still letting him drop back to make a play. But on these particular plays, they were better than just regular average screen plays where you're dropping back 10 yards to suck the offensive line in and then dump it off to a running back who's got 3 offensive linemen in front of him. No, they were quicker plays than that. They were bubble screens. There were some, not a wheel route, but I think you had one real wheel route in there. You had a 5 and out. I think the Dallas Goedert, he was able to get a reception on and get you some yards on. That was a perfectly executed, perfectly called possession. By Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, and the Eagles offense. But they barely ran the ball. But they were able to establish a quick game that kept their offensive linemen fresh, allowed them to be a thud-and-done type of offensive line where they didn't have to worry about holding a pass block for an extended period of time. That helps out your offense. That helps out your O-line. That's what I would have loved to have seen them do against the Dallas Cowboys. For whatever reason, they didn't do it. But this is a game that I thought, for the most part, Nick Sirianni bounced back from well. You can't have that offense stall on the first possession, whether that's Jalen Hurts or Nick Sirianni's fault. But to me, overall, I thought the offense just played a great game. Nick Sirianni went for a top shelf comment about Jalen Hurts, and we'll get to that in just a second. But overall, definitely hit me up in the comments. Let me know what's flashing to you about what really scared you about this particular game, whether that's the 5 I mentioned with our J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Dillard, Steve Nelson, Jonathan Gannon's game plan, whatever that was, and then Fletcher Cox as well. Make sure you hit me up. Let me tell you right now about my friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Do what I do. If you're looking for the perfect jeweler, the perfect gift at the perfect price, go to Steven Singer Jewelers. IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com, and get treated like family. Make an appointment at the appointment scheduler at IHateStevenSinger.com. You walk in, you have a real jewelry expert show you all the beautiful inventory, answer all your questions, and most importantly, make you feel comfortable for 2 reasons. 1, they're personable people. They're great people. Reason number 2, you know you're getting the perfect price, so you can relax. You don't got to worry, okay, this is really nice, but I hope I can really negotiate. I hope I can really haggle here. No, it's not at the perfect price. It's not like some other places that everything's marked up so high so they can mark it down in front of you and make you feel like you're getting some kind of deal. No, it's right there. Perfect price every single time. IHateStevenSinger.com. The other corner of 8th and Walnut, that's IHateStevenSinger.com. All right. Now is the time we usually bring in a guest, but on post-game day shows, I like to just make sure I break down everything and let you guys hear things that were said in the locker room. Probably the easiest thing is to let you – I'm not going to play it because there's a little bit of the curse in there. And, in case you guys are watching this or listening to this with the kids and stuff, the Darius Slay did say after the game, he said they got to get this ish right. Huh? I got to get this ish right. So there you go. But other than that, Nick Sirianni, one of the first things he was asked about in the post-game press conference was the 3rd and goal in the first quarter and what the heck happened. That ended up being a 4th and goal in the first quarter where they tried to avoid a delay of game call, ended up calling a timeout only to kick the field goal. Nick Sirianni on that situation.
Yeah, we went all the way down there. We had a really good drive. We ran out of time on the play clock on the one. I didn't get the call in quick enough, and so once we got to that, I thought it was important that we got points on the board at that particular time. I thought it'd just be too much of a momentum swing if they stopped us on 4th and 3, so I decided to kick the field goal.
And what was the conversation with the ref? Because if you're going to kick the field goal, there's no need to take the timeout.
Yep, I'll keep that conversation between us. But yeah, I'm not going to make an excuse about anything, and so I got to be better.
Yep. So what about if you're going to call a timeout? Why kick the field goal? Yep. That was adorable. Every once in a while, folks. I don't know if you guys are married or whatnot, but every once in a while, or maybe you're younger and maybe just your relationship with your parents can sometimes, you have an argument or two. Do you ever tell something to somebody that's very obvious and it takes them a second to process it, and you're just kind of looking at them as they look confused at what you just said, and what you just said as far as is like, fire is hot. And then they just kind of stare at you and they're like, it can burn you. Yep. Like something like an obvious exchange that takes a while for someone else to register. That's what Nick Sirianni reminded me of. Yep. Like the question was a legit question. Like, what the hell are you calling a timeout for then? Even though it was Jalen Hurts calling a timeout. But even if you're calling a timeout, why are you kicking the field goal instead of going for it? Yep. Like, there's no other explanation. There's no other words I can say to you without indicting myself or someone else. Yep is almost the Fifth Amendment. I take the fifth here. I'm pleading the fifth. So did they not get set up properly? Did he really call the play late? To me, it looked like Hurts wasn't getting the ball snapped when he wanted it. See the play clock start to tick off, and that's when he called the timeout. At first, I didn't think they were going to award it, which was fine with me. I was like, okay, they're trying to draw him off sides. They're going to take the 3 points. I still would have gone for it, but okay, this is what they want to do. They're getting the points on the opening drive. To me, they went for the trying just not to kill all momentum. And against a team like the Chiefs, you got to start swinging. You got to start throwing haymakers and hope a few connect. That would have been a situation where I would have loved to see Nick Sirianni go for it. Now, the other thing, I mentioned Andre Dillard. I mentioned Derek Barnett. I certainly mentioned J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Self-inflicted wounds. Nick Sirianni on what this team needs to correct going forward.
But I know I sound the same, but it's still true. We gotta stop the self-inflicted wounds of putting ourselves in holes and with penalties. The guys did a good job. We won the turnover battle. Our defense took it away. We didn't give it away. They forced another fumble on special teams. So there's some good things, obviously, right there. We got to do things better, both offensively and defensively, and special teams wise. There was one time we started inside the 15. So we have to use this tape and get better from it.
Okay, as soon as that, I'd love to see that happen. But as I was pointing out last week when we talked about Derek Barnett and it's always him and all the penalties and how you correct this. Where's I know I even said last week, where's the, hey, take a lap? Like that doesn't happen in the NFL. So are these guys just going to stop seeing playing time? Because the other part of this with Derek Barnett is Brandon Graham not being here helps Derek Barnett's case for being on the football field longer. And I'll look at the snap count. I'll see if it's down from last week. It didn't feel like Derek Barnett wasn't on there as much. It didn't feel like he was missing playing time. It felt like he was out there just as much. So I'll see if it was down from last week to this week, or from Monday to Sunday, whether or not his snap count was down, his percentage was down. But to me, it's the same people. It's Andre Dillard. It's Derek Barnett. And when Derek Barnett made that penalty, the low hit, whether or not you want to overanalyze it as I did, saying he was pushed, whatever, it is always him. And looking at Twitter after that, oh, man, let's go through my scrolling, and I just saw, it's always him, it's always him, it's bleeping him, it's always him, it's always him, And I'm watching it, I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, it's always him. Unless the Eagles have the ball, then it's Dillard. Then it's always Dillard if we're talking about penalties here. So I don't know where they go. And both guys are product of more playing time due to injury. Andre Dillard, obviously, with Jordan Mailata, and Derek Barnett being out there more with Brandon Graham being hurt. So they're playing from behind when it comes to not having a long list of people that can go in there at the defensive end position. So that's why Derek Barnett you're going to continue to see. We talked about the 3rd and goal situation and the 4th and goal situation. This is where Nick Sirianni goes top shelf. I want to say it was 387 yards through the air, 2 passing touchdowns, a couple of them called back, as we know. And then we also had a fumble from Jalen Hurts. We had leading your team in rushing again, Jalen Hurts. That was good. Jalen Hurts played a very, very good game. I am very pleased with the way Jalen Hurts played. I would not issue this compliment that Nick Sirianni did. And even for Nick Sirianni, all Skippy Nicky, right? We're all having fun. Even for him, this was even too much of a top shelf compliment for Jalen Hurts' game.
I kind of talked to somebody in there. I just said that's one of the better quarterback performances I've seen, and I've been around a lot of good quarterbacks, with Phillip Rivers and Andrew Luck. I mean, he battled. He made good decisions with the football. He got out of trouble when there was trouble. He made good checks. He made good reads. I thought that's the best I've seen him in practice. That's the best I've seen him in a game since I've been here. So hats off to Jalen. He battled, and that's going to be important for us moving forward.
You want to talk about building on it? Fine. I want to hear the beginning of that just one more time.
I kind of talked to somebody in there. I just said that's one of the better quarterback performances I've seen, and I've been around a lot of good quarterbacks.
All right. So you say that to somebody in the locker room. Did they just go, seriously? Phillip Rivers performances you've been around? No? I know he threw a lot of interceptions and stuff, but Phillip Rivers is still a pretty good quarterback. I can't go one of the better quarterback performances I've seen, because here's the thing. I don't really look at passing yards a lot in the NFL. I'm not a big fan of the passing yards, the whole thing, because a lot of that is like run to pass ratio. And so like if you're way behind in the second half of a game, you're not going to run the ball a lot. So that's how football works. Passing yards, you're going to be throwing the football a lot in that second half. And the Eagles have been behind a lot in the second half of football games. So passing yards, especially like a game like this where you're trying to keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm not looking at it going, oh, wow, this is incredible. What I'm looking at are the throws, and these are the only knocks I have on Jalen Hurts. Even the fumble, he's got to protect the football. We know that. You're going to have miscues. You're going to have bad throws as a quarterback. But where you can't have those above anywhere else is obviously the red zone, which sucks because he had a really good throw to Zach Ertz that Zach Ertz has to catch in the end zone, and he dropped it. He had a perfect throw to I almost said Jalen Reagor because that's the guy who made the last mistake, to Devontae Smith, and Devontae Smith was out of bounds. There was some hand fighting going on with the defensive back in the fourth quarter, I want to say it was. And Devontae Smith caught the ball in the end zone after it looked like he got 3 feet back in bounds. There was 1 foot out of bounds, and then there was 1, 2, 3 on the catch. I thought that was establishing position. I guess not. But the refs decided to call it back. It was not a touchdown. It was a perfectly thrown ball from Jalen Hurts. So there's a balance there. Your teammates got to help you out. Greg Ward, it would have been a spectacular catch. Zach Ertz's catch just would have been a really good catch by Zach Ertz, but he didn't come down with it. So you look at opportunities there in the red zone where you're either getting a ball called back, a missed throw by Jalen Hurts, or drops. Those are all mistakes that can't happen, especially in the red zone, with the exception being Devontae Smith's catch in the end zone, which was then called back. To me, if you're watching this game and you're watching how they played in the red zone, it comes down to those self-inflicted wounds, whether it was a missed throw, whether it was a drop, or whether it was running out of bounds as a wide receiver. Now, one of the things I have been really looking at with these wide receivers, Jalen Reagor being another one, is where they do position themselves when they start their route on plays that end up with them out of bounds. And I know Devontae Smith is a rookie. Jalen Reagor's not a rookie, but he is young. They have to know where they need to start out those routes, and that's what Nick Sirianni was also saying after the game. It was a state mistake. He even highlighted the Jalen Reagor play against San Francisco 49ers where Jalen Reagor was out of bounds but came back in and caught a touchdown. If Nick Sirianni's former wide receiver coach, former wide receiver, albeit at a D2 school, then you got to go out there and you got to show these guys where they're supposed to line up on the play. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. Skippy Nicky. I think I'm gonna hold on to that one for a minute. So that was Nick Sirianni on Jalen Hurts, one of the better games he's seen Jalen Hurts play. Here's Jalen Hurts on Jalen Hurts. This is about a minute long. I want you to just concentrate on what Jalen Hurts had to say when I left a little part of the question in there just so you could see him and how he reacts. Because basically the question that was asked was, Nick Sirianni said this is one of the better performances he's seen from a quarterback. What did you have to say about your performance? And here is Jalen Hurts.
Best game you've ever played.
Look, we lost. We lost. We lost the game. We gotta do more. Gotta do better. And this is what I'm gonna say. You know, you got every opportunity to learn, right? Every opportunity, everything that you do, you learn from it. And we're clearly not there as a football team because we've lost, but we're this close. We're this close, and that's something that I believe. We have to continue to grow, continue to learn, continue to be 1% better every day. Rent been doing every day. Continue to clock in, and buy into that and believe in that. And that's what it's going to take. And we're not a finished product. No player on this team is a finished product. But it's about believing in that and continue to grow and learn from everything that you do. You know, we played a good football team out there. We played a good football team out there today. A team that many say is generationally one of the best. And great quarterback, great players, all that. We got great players too. And we have to put that, we got to put it together, and we will. We're not a finished product.
I'll say this. I don't necessarily agree with everything that Jalen Hurts had to say about being this close. If you have this many plays where you're this close, then you're not that close if there's that many plays. Couple of plays, sure. I just rattled off 4 or 5 of them. That's not that close. But when you listen to what he had to say, that's exactly what your starting quarterback should say. And I continue to be blown away by what Jalen Hurts has to say going into games, during the game week, obviously, what he has to say after games. He's very real. And again, I don't agree with the whole we're really close thing, but that's the exact mindset that you want your starting quarterback to have. I don't know if that was one of the best quarterback performances I've ever seen, but I know that's one of the best answers I've ever heard from a starting quarterback after a game. That's one of the most real answers I've ever heard from a starting quarterback after a game. He gets, hey, you played this amazing game with stats, numbers, yay. And he just goes, yeah, look, we lost. That's great. Like, all that goes out the window because we lost the football game. When you do talk about self-inflicted wounds, when you do talk about trying to correct mistakes, yeah, a lot of that will fall on the head coach. A lot of that will fall on the quarterback. A lot of that will fall on the defensive coordinator. A lot of that falls on basically everyone gets a piece of it, as they say. But for this particular game, I don't see how the Eagles can look at it and go, man, we're this close. The fact of the matter is they were down 5 points in the fourth quarter to a team I thought they'd get completely obliterated by. When that fourth quarter did start up, though, the Chiefs were very much in the understanding that they could have done whatever they want. I believe they had 2 separate 11-play, 75-yard drives of about 6 minutes plus in this game. They knew that they could score at will, and they practically did that in the fourth quarter. Eagles, give them credit for hanging with them till the fourth quarter, but because they're not this close, that's why they didn't win the game, unfortunately. Last thing from Jalen Hurts. We talked about the self-inflicted wounds and all that. Jalen Hurts talked about what specifically is the problem with this Eagles team.
It's not something I can really pinpoint. I'm going to take accountability for everything on my end, you know what I'm saying? Whether it be being more decisive up down there or flat out just executing and getting in the end zone. We have a lot of playmakers, and we need to get in. It was the difference in this game, clearly.
Always self-inflicted wounds. That's what it seems to come down to with the Eagles, and that's the MO for the start of their season. That locker room sound brought to you by our good friends at Rothman Orthopaedics. Rothman Orthopaedics, ladies and gentlemen, do what I do. When you have an orthopedic issue, you need to focus in on a doctor that focuses in on one area of the body so you can have the confidence to get past the pain and be what you were. Remember the old you, the one that didn't have to put up with a fickle knee, finicky hip, or shoulder that no longer does what a shoulder should do? Well, the Rothman approach to orthopedics is here to get you back to being you, back to running, walking, working, and playing, back to living your life the way you want. With same-day appointments available, you can start today at RothmanOrtho.com. That's RothmanOrtho.com. Rothman Orthopaedics, the official orthopedic partner of your Phillies, Eagles, and Sixers. How about our friends at what do we got here? BetQL. BetQL, helping you make all the smart bets to get the advantage over your sports book. You need to download BetQL, the only app you'll need to make smart bets. The Best Bets computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets per year to give you the best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports, and it gives you reasoning behind why you should place the bet. Their model covers everything from point spreads, over-unders, and player props. Don't want to use the model and prefer to research yourself? BetQL will also provide you the necessary tools for your betting research needs for you to do your own research. Everything from sharp data, line movement, team summaries, lineup, injuries, breaking news, and even leaderboards to track your success. Head to the App Store or Google Play Store now and go to BetQL. Get BetQL. Download the BetQL app. Steak and Maine, mentioned at the top of the show. 2-pound tomahawk steak of deliciousness. Fine Pinot Noir to go along with it from Cavada Cellars Wines. Folks, if you haven't tried Steak and Maine yet, you're missing out. Voted #1 place for steaks in America by the Travel Channel and the Cooking Channel. Whether you like to dine in their more upscale steakhouse, their casual bar, or patio, you'll enjoy the highest quality of prime meats, fresh seafood, world-class oyster bar, oysters, and freshly prepared sushi. Don't forget about Cavada Cellars Wines as well. Open every day for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Steak and Maine in the heart of Northeast Maryland. Check them out for yourself at steakandmaine.com. WinView is a lot of fun. The WinView app is a great app to download. It's not a sports book. It's not daily fantasy, but it is a way to see if your friends can walk the walk as well as talk the talk. See who knows the most about sports. WinView is the only game where fans can take on other fans and end the debate once and for all who is the bigger sports fan. Have those friends or family members who think they know everything? Well, you can play them in a WinView contest and have them walk the walk. Want to break up the monotony of a family dinner and get together or whatever it might be? Play during a fourth quarter of Monday Night Football, play during Sunday Night Football, play throughout the season. It's the perfect way to add the extra layer of competition in your fantasy league. My fantasy league lost yesterday. Didn't have that great a game, unfortunately. Chase Claypool being hurt, being out, it didn't help me. Also, Ben Roethlisberger not being that good at football anymore also hurt me. But you can have a little fun, a little side bet you can make with a friend in the fantasy league as well. And that way, a little bit more instant gratification by actually winning something that particular night, not waiting till the end of week 16, whenever the fantasy games are going to end, week 17, week 18, whatever they might be this year. So make sure you download the amazing WinView app in the App Store and have yourself a good time. You can win prizes. You can win money. All sorts of good stuff with the WinView app. And how about our friends at PHL Sports Nation? Enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across blogs and all social media. Let's go into our social media check-in brought to you by Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. Let's check in here. We got Kevin leading us off here. What's up, Kevin? Good morning to you. Dan, good morning. So tired. It's unreal. Sorry, Dan. Marc, chat, PJ, what's up, Mally? Hello to you as well. Good morning, April. T-Bro, what's up with you? Oh, Dan, you have to work today. I'm sorry, brother. April, that shirt is dark. Yes. So this shirt, if you're joining us for the first time, I usually wear a shirt of the lighter variety. This shirt a little dark. A little dark today. A little dark. I'm doing Fox 29 right after the show, so I got to skedaddle over to Fox 29 in Old City. I have a lighter blazer that I'm going to wear over top of it. So that's exciting. So I figure it'll be a nice contrast under the lights of a normal TV studio, if you will. So that's what I got going on, April. Thank you for noticing. You always notice. Mally, the Eagles' run game is just like Simmons' shot, non-existent. I'll say it again. The run-to-pass ratio was terrible if you're just looking at run-to-pass ratio. But like as far as the flow of the game went, I was fine with it. Maybe a couple of more runs in the red zone I would have been all right with. But when you had quick passes, you were getting rid of the ball quick, you weren't making your offensive linemen hold blocks, and you were getting yards out of it, that's what was working. So I did not, this particular game, I did not have a problem. Dallas Cowboys was the worst I've ever seen. Seeing the way they played the Monday night against Dallas Cowboys, that was one of the worst game managed, play called games I have ever seen. Maybe the worst. 2 times Miles Sanders gets to run the football. No excuse for that. By the way, Miles Sanders also 1.9 yards per carry yesterday. So maybe not yesterday. Wasn't the best example of that. But he did have 10 touches. So that's fun. What else do we... You know what? I will never live that down. Yes, my freaky cousin was at the family reunion, you sick bastard. Still need to run the ball more. I'm not disagreeing. I wouldn't mind that at all. Just didn't think yesterday was nearly as big a deal as, say, Monday night. I think frustrated for me more this April is that it was close. Almost wish it was a blowout. Okay, April, that's interesting. That's where we kind of play the give and take with this team. Because, again, if you're telling me before the game, hey, Lane's also not playing, so that's 3 offensive linemen you're down, but you're only going to be out of it by 5 points in the fourth quarter, I'm going, damn, good for this team, all right. But watching the way the entire game played out, the Eagles could have won this game. They would have had to be damn near perfect, but they could have won this game. The other side of it is, all right, let's say Jalen Hurts hits Zach Ertz on the opening drive. They're up 7-0. Kansas City comes right back, scores a touchdown. Let's say that Andre Dillard isn't offsides and you are illegally downfield, and Dallas Goedert scores that touchdown. JJ, I think a Whiteside doesn't make that illegal block where it's offensive pass interference. Let's say Devontae Smith never runs out of bounds. Let's say even Jalen Hurts never fumbles that football. Let's say Greg Ward or Zach Ertz pull those balls in the end zone. Like everything the Eagles did, even if they were perfect, offensively speaking, I still feel like if the Eagles scored 60 points, the Kansas City Chiefs would have scored 61. Like, I still feel like it would have been, in the end, the Kansas City Chiefs winning this football game in an absolute shootout. Not that 42-30 is a defensive battle, but still, I feel like no matter what the Eagles were going to do, the Kansas City Chiefs were still going to be one better, at least. But, yeah, I would have rather been the blowout, I guess. No, I'll take the moral victories, right? The quote-unquote moral victories. Andre Dillard has more penalties than Eagles had for rushing attempts. Mally, you're not far off. Penalties are stupid, you're right. Vince, brutal. A lot of it was brutal. When especially when you're talking about those self-inflicted wounds, you're exactly right. Defense is so soft, it's funny. You know what is funny, Mally? Oh, it's T-Bro. Can't win these games if the defense can't get off the damn field. Here's what's pissing me off about Jonathan Gannon, and I'll give him credit for this. He threw 2 blitzes in from the secondary. I think one time it was a safety blitz, the other time it was a corner blitz. Both times, Patrick Mahomes is like, that's adorable, threw the ball downfield. Tyreek Hill for a touchdown. He blitzed a couple of times, whoopee. But the whole sting, you can't take the stinger out of this defense. When we were going back to training camp, and Jonathan Gannon was sticking his chest out a little bit about how aggressive his team was going to be. They've barely forced turnovers. They got a turnover in this game, which was great. But they barely forced turnovers this year. You haven't really seen them get in the backfield with blitzes. You haven't seen them be overly aggressive really at all throughout this game. And I know you want to talk about this defensive line, and it's supposed to be great. Hey, Javon Hargrave's been your best defensive player by far, probably your most consistent player no matter what throughout the entire, four games you've played so far this season. But for a defensive line that was supposed to be amazing, hey, Brandon Graham not being here right now, Ryan Kerrigan not even being visible, really, Derek Barnett getting penalties all the time. Josh Sweat, hey, you had a sack that was taken away because of a penalty downfield. Where's that dominant defensive line that we've been talking about? Where's that dominant defensive line that's so good you don't need the blitz? I haven't seen that. So I don't know what the Eagles are doing. Maybe that's why they actually dialed up a few blitzes. But to me, it was nothing crazily out of the ordinary for how aggressive they were going to be. And certainly Patrick Mahomes, it looked like every time they sent somebody in from the secondary, he was beating them. He found exactly where the blitz was and exploited it. So go figure. Defense is soft. Gannon defensive scheme. It's the new Charmin toilet paper ad. It's so soft. I get you. Dan Schwartz, April. Hargrave looked like a beast again. Dan, I think beast is what you were saying there. He did look like a beast. Mally's bad. Gentis, his contract will never expire. While he sits out, he just carries over to next year. Is that wait? Are we talking about Simmons again? Why are we talking about Ben Simmons? Save that for tomorrow. I don't want to talk about that clown right now. April, especially stop. Dante, this team ain't it. Not far off. Kevin telling Maui to preach. Maui's on point today. Benny, Sealski still sucks though, right? Benny, welcome back. Nice to see you, bud. Larry, Benny. I like when you guys see each other in the chat and you haven't seen that name for a while and you guys are like, hey, Benny, Maui. Dan, Benny, what up? Let's just all say hi to Benny. Benny, what's popping, brother? Nice to have you back. We need Scooby-Doo to pull off Sirianni's mask and reveal, I don't know who it would be. Mally, Howie is here. So, okay, let me say this. If we do these little lists I like to do of the 5 things that bother me about every single game, number 1 on the list, let's just put it this way. If I rank them 1 through 5 as the ranked contenders, the champion is Howie Roseman. Because, I mean, look, as much as I would have put Jonathan Gannon number 1, how do I do that when this is what he has to work with? Remember the movie Batman 89? Michael Keaton's first Batman, and Jack Nicholson goes to the surgeon guy, and he's like, "It work on my face," and the surgeon guy's like, "You see what I have to work with," and he's got like a bunch of tools that look like they're not for working on somebody's face; they look like they're for putting a house together. And he's like, "You see what they have to work with." Jonathan Gannon is the surgeon guy in the original Batman. You see what they have to work with. That's what Jonathan Gannon is saying. That's all he should say in his press conferences, his weekly press conferences. You see what they have to. Hey, why'd you guys allow 43 points against Kansas City Chiefs? You see what they have to work with. Like, that would be great. That would I think explain it much better. So that's why I can't put him number 1. Lester, Mark, it's time you put a Sirianni wig on and started doing his impression. Well, I'll tell you what, right now, Jonathan Gannon impression is now, you see what they have to work with. Like, that's Jonathan Gannon from now on. The Sirianni impression is just overly hyped. It's Skippy Nicky. That was the greatest game, right? That you ever, right? Seen from, right? That's the greatest game, right? That you ever seen from a quarterback, right? All right, anyway. R. Simmons, already this show sucks. Okay. He thought it was... Nate, what's happening? Julian, what's up, Julian? Nice to see you. Yes, Dan Schwartz did change his profile photo. I don't know what it is. It looks like a warning sign. I don't know what it is, but Dan, hey, I like people that throw in the avatar. Inside the Birds, what's happening on Thomas, to say the least? Not an enjoyable 60. That's for sure. You talking about my show, Inside the Birds? Or are you talking about the Eagles game? The Phillies could have won the NL East, but they didn't. And the Phillies get a shout out. That's fun. Nicholas, no future at free safety or safety linebacker. Wallace hurt every 2 seconds. It certainly seems like that. Dan, congratulations for having Tyreek Hill in your fantasy. So that's cool. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for commenting in our comment section here. Brought to you by our friends at Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. Let's move into our our morning rush, brought to you by Sky Motorcars, skymotorcars.com. Phillies did miss the playoffs. Their season ended 82-80, so they suck. And then I also want to say this. They fired their hitting coach and their assistant hitting coach, too. So they're looking for new jobs. So, look. Maybe need some help with pitching as well, with the Aaron Nolan needing some help. I don't know. But when it comes to this Phillies team, 82-80 is around where I saw them at the start of the season. But again, expectations change as the year goes on. And when you see them lose a series, get swept by the Arizona Diamondbacks, when you see them get swept by the Atlanta Braves in the biggest series of the season, and Bryce Harper barely gets on base in that series, those are all things that we'll look back on and go, wow, just this close. But when you add them up, if there's a lot of this close, then you ain't that close. Just like I was saying about the Eagles and Jalen Hurts and the self-inflicted wounds, if there's a lot of this close, you ain't that close. And that's what you can look at from this particular game. And now the Phillies as well. So we'll see what they do. Joe Girardi is supposed to come back. Phillies are going to have a new hitting coach, new assistant hitting coach. Phillies will have a new director of development, and that's Don Mattingly's son. We'll see how that goes. Comes over for the Padres organization. All right. We'll see how that goes in the minor league system. Now, this isn't something that made me feel phenomenal, but it put a smile on my face, and I said I'd get to this in the Morning Rush segment brought to you by Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. Tom Brady went to New England yesterday, and he won. Tom Brady has now beaten every team in the NFL. Also, yesterday, as they showed the graphic on Sunday Night Football, yesterday was the first game coached by two coaches that were 69 or older. Nice. So that was something that was impressive. Good for Bruce Arians and good for Bill Belichick. But last night, after Tom Brady went back to New England and won, beat the Patriots, and now beaten every team, he offered this little nugget to Michelle Tafoya on NBC after the game.
I sure as hell can't catch anything. Everyone's seen that drop against the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom Brady. It's much appreciated. Eagles got the Carolina Panthers coming up next. We're going to examine that a little bit more as the week goes on. Hugh Lamont Douglas III will join us for a Tuesday morning tomorrow morning, so I look forward to that. When it comes to this Eagles game, like I said, going into it, did not expect it to be as close as it was in the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter is when the Chiefs really started to pull away. And although you can go back and play the what-if game, as we have played a couple of times on the show already, talking about if Jalen Hurts hits two guys in the numbers in the end zone, talking about touchdowns. If Zach Ertz pulls in a ball in the end zone that was in his reach, talking touchdown. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Andre Dillard, whatever it might be. Even the Derek Barnett play that I can't fault him 100% on simply because he was pushed into Patrick Mahomes, and it was probably the least egregious of his egregious penalties, and it only would have been 3rd and 1, still in the goal situation for the Kansas City Chiefs. I can't fault him all that much for it, but still self-inflicted wounds. Inexperience, a young football team. And that's a lot of times we're going to have to remind ourselves as this season goes on. Because even though the Eagles won't fully admit a huge rebuild that's going on right in front of our very eyes right now, when we watch the Eagles play, we have high expectations, no matter how young they are, no matter how new the head coach might be, no matter how young the quarterback himself might be, or the fact that it's the first-time defensive coordinator in Jonathan Gannon. I know as the game goes on, we tend to forget that, and rightfully so. They're still professional athletes. I was looking at this team to be a 9-win team, 8-win team with a lights-out Jalen Hurts. Maybe he makes up for a lot of mistakes that this team is going to make, as a really good quarterback can do. Maybe he's not a really good quarterback. Maybe he is what we see, which are these numbers that we see him put up. We see him run. We see him basically be the Eagles' offense yesterday, which is, again, why I can't fault him for a reason why they really lost this game, because without him, they're not even close to anything near being in this game. So when you watch this team play throughout the season, I'm always going to try to keep in the back of my mind, oh, yeah, it's a young team. Even when you see a guy like Andre Dillard, who's been around for more than a minute, even when you see a guy like Derek Barnett continuously make mistakes defensively with being offsides, encroachment, bad hits, whatever it might be, I'm going to have to continuously remind myself that this is a growing team. And we're unfortunately going to see a lot of growing pains. The one major thing I'll take away from this game as a positive is that I saw a night and day performance as far as game plan preparation went from this team offensively. When it comes to those penalties, though, that needs to be corrected. Not just a better game plan overall, not just scouting the opposite team better than what they did going into this game, but overall, individually, every position group needs to coach up their guys and discipline their guys so you don't continuously see the same mistakes made with bad penalties. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside pushing off in the end zone. You don't continue to see Derek Barnett making penalties or Andre Dillard, whoever it might be. You don't also see wide receivers run out of bounds before coming in to try to catch a touchdown pass. Those mistakes, those self-inflicted wounds need to be coached out of this football team. And hopefully that's what we'll see sooner rather than later. Other good news, hey, there's one more game where hopefully the Eagles will have to improve upon all of this. Got another couple of tough games in front of them here on the schedule. Carolina Panthers coming up next, so we'll see how that goes. Hugh Douglas will be joining us coming up tomorrow morning. Look forward to that conversation. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My name is Marc Farzy here from the Steven Singer Studios. Jim Hyden produced the program, did a phenomenal job. This is a Buzz Sports and Entertainment production. Hey, catch me in about 45 minutes on Fox 29 with my good friend Mike Jarek, and also Gary Cobb will be making an appearance as well. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Take it easy.